Welcome in to the Fun Astrology Podcast. Thomas Miller here. No, I'm not going to do the sky today, but I thought since we're taking a little break here over this July weekend, summer in the Northern Hemisphere, that we might enjoy a little audiobook excerpt from Steve Forrest. This is, since it's Leo season right now, I pulled from the Book of Fire. Where else, right? And this is just a little excerpt from Steve's 4-part series called the Elements series, which I was so honored and privileged to narrate to audiobook. But I just thought while we're kind of taking a little break here that you might enjoy a little Steve Forrest. This is from the first book of the 4-part Elements series, the Book of Fire. Chapter 4, The Leo Clan. Exit the ram and enter the lion. We leave the realm of raw survival and enter more subtle territory. More subtle, but not necessarily more evolved. That's not how it works. Leo does not inherently represent higher ground than Aries. But it is true to say the questions now become more paradoxical, less obvious, more slippery. The black hats and white hats of the Aryan realm now turn to shades of beige. Cans of beer turn into martinis. We have left the jungle behind. Bright city lights loom before us. Technically, as we approach the Leo clan, we also face the literal linchpin of our solar system, the sun itself, Leo's ruling planet. And as Leo is the 5th sign of the zodiac, we also confront the arena of human behavior called the 5th house. As with the Aries clan, these are all vast subjects. How vast? Imagine taking the entire universe and all the possibilities in it, everything that's ever happened, everything that could have ever happened, everything that might possibly happen, and dividing it all into 12 boxes. These astrological archetypes are really big boxes. A brief sermon before we face the lion. Maybe Mercury transits through a square aspect to your sun. As that's happening, you drop a filing cabinet on your big toe. Hey, I could have told you that would happen. Mercury represents filing cabinets. Well, it does. Mercury is connected with information, and so are filing cabinets. But so are encyclopedias, radios, billboards, road signs, DVDs, televisions, universities, communication satellites, and carrier pigeons. I'll spare you the rest of the list. With Mercury transiting through a square to your sun, you might have had an unpleasant experience with any of those things. As easily, you might have received an unpleasant letter from the tax people. Maybe you had a difficult conversation with a friend. Maybe you drank too much coffee and felt jittery all day. These are all mercurial realities. Remember, if we divide the universe into 12 boxes, they are all really big. That line may be droll, but as astrologers, it is critical that we remember it. From it, we get a fundamental understanding of how astrology actually operates, not to mention of its limits. Astrology always works, which means these symbols correlate reliably with the manifestation of archetypal fields of possibility. When Mercury squares your sun by transit, it is your inescapable fate to deal with a certain form of energy. But the fields of possibility it represents are so vast that guessing what will actually happen is virtually impossible. Bottom line, we never really know what is going to happen, only what the questions will be. A good astrologer will not put you in the passive role by foretelling your future. Rather, he or she will counsel and advise, trying to help you aim your free will in the most constructive direction. Astrologers often say, "I could have told you that," but they really couldn't have. No one could have foreseen that filing cabinet landing on your big toe. In retrospect, whatever happens is consistent with the symbolism. but may God help any astrologer who is trying to make predictions. All of that applies to everything in the realm of astrology. This is why psychological and spiritual astrologers generally achieve more accurate results than the ones who claim to have a crystal ball. Let's see how all this applies to the realm of Leo, the sun, and the fifth house. Set the controls for the heart of the sun. The almighty sun rules Leo and is the natural ruler of the fifth house. We will concentrate initially on our central star. In fact, for a while you might think that I have forgotten about Leo in the fifth house. But don't worry, we'll dive deeply into them in a few pages. But in letting our inner poets contemplate the sun and its meaning, we will have built a foundation for understanding its sign and house expressions. With its massive gravitational field, the sun holds the planets in their courses. If it were to disappear, one of the many unpleasant effects of its sudden absence would be that the planets, and we along with them, would simply fly off into space. This is our first hint about the astrological meaning of the sun. As with the solar system, so with your head. The sun's task is to hold you together too. Everything revolves around the sun. If your college astronomy professor says that line, you write it down and you pass the test. But maybe an hour later, your political science professor says, in politics, everything revolves around money. Again, you write down and have no trouble understanding the professor's intent. Obviously, the usage here is different from the astronomical one. We know what our political science professor meant. In politics, money is always a pivotal concept. In understanding anyone astrologically, the sun is the single most pivotal concept. The core hermetic principle of our craft is famously, as above, so below. Nowhere do we see that notion demonstrated so vividly as with the sun. Again, it is the gravitational center of your head. It is what holds you together. And holding you together is often a formidable task. Sanity. Jean Houston, asked to define normal, once famously said, "A normal person is someone that you don't know very well." I suspect she successfully danced out the door before anyone could catch her. She is, of course, correct. We say it lightly, but we all know it's true. We are all a little crazy, at least in the broad sense of the term. Are you going to take the job in South Dakota? The stakes are high. The outcomes are uncertain. You tell your friends that struggling to decide is making you feel crazy. They all know what you mean. They've all been crazy that way at times themselves.